Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Hesse Bros Pod, and we've got a dandy for you this week. We are into the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. It's your boy B Hess and my brother Luke. Luke, what is going on, Chiefs and Lions? Well, we just got to kick our feet back up last weekend, watch all the other teams take their best swing at each other, and now we're down to 8 teams left, four in each conference. The other three in every conference had to win to get here, Chiefs and Lions. Now we'll be starting the playoffs this week. We've got four great matchups. We've got six great games to recap. Might be the best Hesse Bros pod of the season to this point right now.
Yeah, I mean, that felt great being able to sit back and just be able to watch those games. I wish those games were a little bit closer. We only really had one game go down to the wire there on Sunday night. The rest of them, you kind of knew how it was going towards that end of the third quarter and basically all those games. But it's playoff time. You know, the better teams are usually going to be able to find a way to win. And if they're that much better, they're going to be able to do it early.
Yeah, a lot of them did. So we'll talk about some of them that did. We were both on the wrong side of that Texans Chargers game. Justin Herbert, he's not a good playoff quarterback so far. He's in 5 years only made it twice, and both those two games was bad. He's about abysmal in three out of those four halves. Had a good first half against Jacksonville years back. This year, they had every opportunity. The Texans were trying to give him chance after chance to take an early advantage into that game, and it was 6-0. Then C.J. Stroud makes a big play to Hutchinson on a crazy third down, gets that team going, and then it was all Houston the rest of the way. So congratulations to the Texans in that one. What were your thoughts on that game?
I think that like I'd been saying for most of the time throughout the year, up until the last couple of weeks, like the Chargers had been showing a lot that they were a great team, but they really don't have the weapons on offense that they need to surround Herbert with to make a run in the playoffs. That's why, I thought they'd be able to beat the Texans with how bad they'd been playing, but still the Chargers weren't up there as one of my teams contending to even make it to a championship game. And it just shows they need a number one receiver. McConkey's good, but I just don't think that, he's someone you can completely just give the ball to no matter what, go-to guy. And their running back situation isn't the best either with Dobbins coming back off the injury. They need to upgrade in some of those weapon positions, but I think with Harbaugh in there and Herbert's going to be able to figure it out as he kind of gets his feet under him and gets those weapons that he needs.
Herbert definitely has the bad playoff quarterback moniker, though, for the time being. That's a tough label to shake. The other game we were both wrong on was the close one that came down to the wire. The doink to make it to the divisional by Zane Gonzalez and the Washington Commies, the team that we both liked all season, picked them in the preseason to make the playoffs, but neither of us trusted them against the Baker Mayfield led Buccaneers. Instead, though, it was Jaden who, this is just crazy. 6 times now this season, he has delivered a game-winning play. His team has won the game within the final 10 seconds of regulation or overtime. So this is just unheard of for a rookie. Now, CJ Stroud, what he did last year was amazing. And after slumping this year, he got back to it with the second straight season with a win in the playoffs. But Jaden this year has just been incredible. Runaway rookie of the year. And what he did against the Bucks, I have to applaud him for it. Man, I didn't even think he could be capable of that.
He's an absolute beast. He showed it there, going for it on those fourth downs, and they didn't get it a couple times, but I mean the real game changer in that game was whenever Baker Mayfield fumbled that, the handoff there.
On the jet
And
sweep, yeah.
so then it ended up turning into, giving the Commanders such good field position. You can't do that in a game like that, especially whenever the margin's that close. I mean, it literally hit off the upright for the win. So any ball could have bounced different in that game, could have been a different result. But hats off to the Commanders and those guys. And I'm not too mad at it. I'd rather be playing them than those guys over in LA.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that matchup. Now, I was on the Buccaneers. I'll admit I was wrong, but when Washington got the ball back with 4 minutes to go after Tampa Bay kicked that game-tying field goal, I live had to live bet a Washington score on that drive. I just knew Jaden was going to go down the field, get his team in position to win the game, whether it was going to be the walk-off winner like that or scoring a touchdown, with a minute or so left in the game, whatever the case ended up being. Washington delivered another fourth down on that drive and ends up getting the field goal. So yeah, that was a fun game to watch. The two, Luke, that I was really confident on, locked in on, was Baltimore and Philadelphia. I thought both of them were just head and shoulders better than their opponents. Bet both of them to cover the spread parlayed together. That one was a pretty comfortable hit when it was all said and done. Lamar looked good. The Eagles defense looked great. Jordan Love was in trouble. So those two games kind of went as expected, and so did Buffalo for the majority of people. After Bo Nix had that big play, it was all Josh Allen and the Bills the rest of the way. And then pumpkin mode, big time pumpkin mode on Monday night.
Yep, those three games kind of went the way everyone was expecting. The better team definitely won those games, and it's tough to see what the Packers had to go through there. If they could have had just maybe one wide receiver not get hurt, they could have made a run at that game. The Eagles definitely do not look unbeatable, especially after the way that Jalen Hurts was playing in that game. Looked a little shaky. Saquon was doing solid, but I don't know. I think that the Eagles are definitely beatable, and the Packers just ran out of steam and ran out of players really towards the end of that game. But yeah, it all came down to Monday night, the game that was probably most anticipated as being the closest game. A game that, obviously shout out to the people in LA, our thoughts and prayers with them. And you could tell that team really rallied around what had happened to them playing that game in Arizona. And that was incredible to watch.
Yeah, that defense, 9 sacks of Darnold. He could not get rid of the ball. Meanwhile, even when Matt Stafford looked like he might be getting sacked, he's just making savvy plays that get overturned from touchdowns to just regular incomplete passes. So mayhem there. Just the difference in quarterbacks. One of them, making smart plays, avoiding sacks. The other one just taking them left and right. A bad fumble as well. Cost his team the game before it ever really got started.
And the Rams defense absolutely balled out in that. And they just took the page right out of Aaron Glenn's playbook and said, let's just rush this dude with all we got. Don't give him time to get the receivers open. And he absolutely crumbled. As soon as the Rams had that scoop and score and Darnold got absolutely blasted, I knew that game was over. And hey, that's why I picked the Rams. That Lions next game little, you know, uh yeah,
Once you
I
play the
guess
Lions, it's hard to recover that next week. Yep.
yeah, you stumble after that. So that's how it goes. And for the Viking season to end with only losing to two teams all year in the wild card round is absolutely crazy. There's no way that's ever happened before. And you just hate to see it for them. But we'll see what they do with Darnold. Now, I don't have any speculation as of right now, but I think it's McCarthy time up there.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that we have to talk about just real quickly before we preview these four divisional matchups is the kind of the fallout from this week's action. Now, I think the biggest stories definitely are what do the Vikings do with Darnold? We've still got coaching carousels going on. Then we've got the Steelers. What do they do with Russell Wilson? And then I think a very tough question that I could not put my finger on all weekend long, watching these teams play, watching these quarterbacks play, is who's the fifth best quarterback in football? I think the top four are clear. Two of them played over the weekend. The other one didn't even make the playoffs, but had great rep numbers, and obviously the best one is sitting at the top. But there was definitely arguments for maybe a Justin Herbert. I can't make that argument after another downfall in the playoffs. There's arguments maybe for Jalen Hurts, but he can't complete passes in the playoffs. He's struggling this year. Who's the number 5 quarterback in football?
Is that really a question? Jared Goff is clearly a top five quarterback in the league, and I'd put him right up there with Burrow. With the way Mahomes has been playing this year, Goff's been playing better than him. He's been absolutely everything
I
the Lions need. He's in such a good system, and he can make every throw that you ask him to.
I agree that he's having a top 5 season, no doubt about that. But you're telling me if you're doing a quarterback draft for next year's team, you're trying to get a team together, you're taking Goff over guys like CJ Stroud, Matt Stafford, even Jaden Daniels, players like that, you believe in Goff more?
If the goal is only to have the best quarterback and win the Super Bowl next year, 100% I'm taking Goff for the Detroit Lions. That's not even a question. I mean, this dude. he's been playing so well all year. I mean, his stats are actually insane. If it weren't for these other quarterbacks having amazing years, Goff 100% would be an MVP consideration, being the number one seed in the NFC, putting up over 4,000 yards, over 70% completion percentage. His quarterback rating is over 110 for the season. I mean, these are numbers that are unheard of, and no one's even talking about him. Clearly, Jared Goff is up there in the top five this year. Come on now.
This year, I agree. I still think Stafford's a top five guy over Goff, but we will find out. They've got to play the games. Both teams are still quarterbacks are still in the games, so that is fun. And CJ Stroud trying to make a case, even though he had a bad regular season, played well enough last week. And of course, I'm excited to see what Jaden Daniels can do this week. A lot of good matchups coming up to look forward to. And we'll start off with the very first one, Chiefs versus the Texans in the AFC divisional. Chiefs just one game away from the annual Arrowhead Invitational. Patrick Mahomes has never lost in the divisional round, 6-0. Luke, I mean, this is just a formality, right?
You got to think the Chiefs are going to be able to get it done. But I am kind of liking this plus 8.5 I'm getting here with the Texans. Like, you got to look at that a little bit and think the Chiefs do not blow teams out very much. They did beat, how much did they beat the Texans by earlier this year?
8.
Yeah. And I mean, the Texans played really bad that game. Clearly, their
I don't think the
defense,
Texans played bad.
all right, well, clearly the defense is playing better than they have. The way that they scared Herbert off the field in that entire Chargers offense, it's got to make you a little nervous with Mahomes not having played in, 3 weeks, whatever it is. And now you got this Texas defense coming to town. And D'Amico Ryans has those boys playing really well. They have a really good cornerback. That Stingley guy is an absolute beast. And I don't know if the Chiefs have the weapons on the outside. Travis Kelsey's probably going to have to go vintage mode here, which I definitely think he could do, but he also could maybe not. Maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. We haven't seen it for basically a whole year since last postseason. He could definitely bring it back again, but they're going to need a little boost if they're going to cover 8.5.
Well, let's talk about Kelsey first, since that's what you ended on. That's probably the most shocking line, most shocking thing that I don't think people understand in this game. So Travis Kelsey, right? You said maybe he hasn't had as strong as a season. He obviously set out week 17, right? You know how many games Kelsey had more than 60 or more receiving yards this season out of the 16 he played in?
How many?
8. 8 out of 16, right at 50-50. His line is only set at 57.5. And this is not regular season anymore. This is Kelsey trying to ball out in the playoffs. Do you know how many consecutive games Travis Kelsey has at least 70 receiving yards in the postseason?
8.
You have to go back all the way to the 2019 Super Bowl when the Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers. Kelsey even scored a touchdown in that game, but didn't have 70 receiving yards. Travis Kelsey has been over 70 yards receiving in 13 straight playoff games. Counts the Dolphins in negative 30 degrees. That counts Super Bowls against the Eagles and against the 49ers. That counts even losses against the Bengals. That counts every game. For the last 13 in the playoffs, Travis Kelsey has gone for at least 70 receiving yards. His line's at 57.5. And even if you think, well, he's not as good, he's not done as good this year. He's hit the over in half the games during regular season. Now it's going to be playoffs when he's Mahomes' first read every single time, and the Chiefs aren't going to be trying different things, trying to get guys involved just for the fun of it. No, they're going to be going down the field trying to score as many points as possible. The Kelsey line is my favorite of the weekend at 57.5. And yeah, I think Kelsey's going to be getting involved. I think that this offense is going to be humming. That was the concern against the Texans last time. Texans lead the NFL in sacks, right? When they played, Chiefs allowed 0 sacks in that game because Mahomes got the ball out quick. They were focused on the protection, allowing Mahomes to get the ball out quick. That was when Mahomes was on a bad ankle. People thought maybe he shouldn't even play that game. And he was still not able to be touched by that Texans defense very often and not brought down once. So the spread, I think it's about right. I say the Chiefs probably win this game by 10 points. I expect them to cover because it's the playoffs now. The Chiefs are going to be trying. They weren't trying during the regular season. They were just out there having fun, trying to get different things. Their goal was not to score as many points as possible, to win games by as many points as possible. Their goal was just to get ready for this part of the season, which is the real part of the season. So, yeah, I wouldn't advise taking the Texans and the points. It's not the worst bet on the board. The worst bet would probably be a Kelsey under. But yes, I expect the Chiefs to win this one about 27-17 would be my pick. A couple other guys I like to get involved. Hollywood Brown. He only played the last two games of the season. He had over 40 yards in both of them, and his line's at 42 and a half. I like Hollywood Brown's over as well. Patrick Mahomes is going to be throwing the ball. The Chiefs are going to look to attack right away. You're going to see a first drive like you see in the fourth quarter. Mahomes' best fourth quarter quarterback this season because when they had to have it, he delivered. Now it's going to be like that from the start. First drive down the field. Expect Andy Reid to script a great drive, get Kelsey involved, get Hollywood involved, mix in the run game, and look for the Chiefs to attack early and often against the Texans.
I do think that the Chiefs are going to win, Brent. But next time if you get the chance to go to another Chiefs game and be in the media, I want you to ask Andy Reid that question. If the rest of the games he's just messing around, not trying to win by as many points as he can, just so he can, try random stuff out. And then once we get to the playoffs, then we'll just try to win by a lot. I want to see you
I
ask him
think it's
that
obvious.
question.
If you watch the games, it's obvious that's what they're doing.
I don't believe it, bro. This is the NFL. This isn't no pansy around. You only get 17 games a season. All right, you got to put your best foot forward at any point you see possible.
Then how do
Maybe
you
the Chiefs are over here thinking they're all that. Don't have to, but I highly doubt that.
how do you explain that the Chiefs every time they needed a game-winning drive, every time they needed a drive this season, they got it. Every single drive. Anytime they needed one. Even the one game the offense lost. Against even the one game the team lost when they had everybody was against the Bills. What did they do still? After the Bills went ahead, Chiefs came right back down and scored. Unfortunately, then the Bills scored again, put it back out to 9, and then it was over. But the Chiefs, when they needed drives in the fourth quarter on third down, Mahomes was the best quarterback on third down again this season, as he always is his favorite down, because that's when the Chiefs try, when they need to. First and second down, let's, try different plays, see who can get involved. Let's run man of steel every once in a while. They just do stuff to practice on things. Now they're really ready to attack.
I don't think that's true at all. I think that Mahomes is definitely a clutch player, and so he's good on third down. And his receivers, especially Kelsey, know how to get open and get past the sticks. That doesn't mean they're messing around the rest of the game. They're still trying to do good, but I just feel like they don't have
Yeah, they're
like
trying
the
to do. I
speed
agree.
as
I
other
agree. Of
teams.
course, they're trying to do good, but they're not showing everything. They're not throwing the whole playbook out there. They're working on different things. Unlike the Lions, who Lions are just, well, I think the Lions do that too. They're like, let's run trick plays against whoever. Let's run Penei Sewell around the end around, or let's have Jared Goff fake like he's falling down. They do that for a reason, right? Just like the Chiefs are doing their things for a reason. They're not out there like, okay, we're playing the Broncos. Let's try to beat them by 100. No, let's just win the game, see what we can do in the middle of it.
Yeah, let's just block this punt, or block this field goal at the end, just so easy. Never a doubt the whole time, and just let
Exactly.
them. We shouldn't have even scored the drive
You're
before to
start
make it really hard on
You're
us.
starting to figure it out because now Sean Payton at the end of his season saying, "Oh man, if only we could have gotten around the Bills. We really liked our chances the next week." Now he's saying stuff like that. He's going to go full delusion ball like Antonio Pierce did last season. So that's exactly what the Chiefs' mindset is. You got it 100% right.
All right, well, glad we're on the same page on that now, BS. Thanks for clearing that up for me.
All right, next game is Lions versus Washington. And Luke, let me lead you in with this question because you mentioned it. You're glad it's Washington. I think so too. I wouldn't want to have to play the Rams first game just like they did last year in the wild card round. Just a weird game when you factor in that Stafford Goff whole trade. And of course, last year's game came right down to the wire. But one thing that you also mentioned is the Lions, they sometimes struggle against mobile quarterbacks. And that is one with Jaden Daniels as a rookie. He's been clutch. He's great on the ground. He's made amazing passes through the air when it's mattered. So, what is the level of just maybe trepidation going against this Jaden Daniels led Washington Commies team?
I'm really not worried about it at all. I think we're going to be able to take care of him pretty easily, mainly because the main problem with the rushing quarterback is that they have a great running back to give the ball to. Brian Robinson has not been playing that well as of late, and they don't have as strong of a run game. So once we get that taken care of, make Jaden more one-dimensional, I think we're going to be able to get out to a pretty decent lead in this game. And when Jaden's having to make all these plays all day long to try to keep his team in it in such a hostile environment, you know how fired up Detroit's going to be for this game. This is going to be louder than any game you've seen at Detroit, and there's been some crazy ones. But I just don't think he's going to be able to make play after play. He will have good plays. He'll probably have a deep ball to McLaurin here. He'll find times to get points on the board, but he's not going to be able to keep up with this Detroit offense.
Yeah, I just think that's the thing is I don't know how Detroit gets slowed down in this game. They have been explosive all season long. And Washington, they have kind of an opportunistic defense, I'd say, but it's still young and it's not overall the most solid throughout the course of the game. And I think they're going to have to be against Detroit. What do you think the offensive game plan is going to look like?
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be number 26 down the field. Right now, his line at over 150 total yards is plus 260. He's hit that in the last 3 games. And David Montgomery is going to come back, but I see him getting limited reps, limited carries in his first game back, mainly because, he's coming off that injury. And I feel like we can do it with Gibbs this week as long as he just, keeps pushing forward. The Commanders have one of the worst rush defenses in the league. And once we get Gibbs going, that play action is going to be absolutely hidden. And giving Ben Johnson a week to prepare for this game and, just worry about this, get this game plan ready to go. I just don't see any way that the Commanders are going to be able to stop this offense. I think we're going to be putting up a lot of points. It's going to be beautiful to watch.
In Washington, they've struggled in the run game this season, most notably in both the meetings against the Eagles, even though they won one of those. Saquon Barkley went nuts in both of those games, big fourth quarter in the game they won on that Thursday night, and then a huge first half before Washington did tighten up a bit in the second half. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Gibbs could have another massive game.
Exactly. And I think that if the Buccaneers would have just kept feeding Bucky Irving, they probably would have won that game if they didn't have that turnover that I mentioned earlier. I think they would have been able to get it done because Bucky was going crazy on him last week. And they have not seen an offensive line like the Lions. And I mean, the Eagles are comparable, but our combination of our pass game with that rush game, I think the Eagles don't have the pass game like we do. And it's going to be nasty. I can't wait to see it, and I think Gibbs is going to have another vintage game. He's definitely the hottest running back in the league right now.
He's definitely playing like one of the best, although there's a couple other good running backs in the league that'll play Sunday, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, most notably. Well, Luke, any final score prediction for this Lions Washington game before we move on?
I'm gonna go 41-21 Lions.
Wow, big number there. I do like Detroit to win and probably even to cover. Maybe a 13-point victory for the Lions sounds about right. Something in the ballpark of 36-23. So, yeah, we will. We're both on the Lions to win and cover. We like both the Chiefs to win the early game on Saturday, although Luke, likes to mess around with opposition covers against the Chiefs, and that's worked really well in the regular season. We don't have to rehash it, but playoffs are a different story. Now to Sunday's games. Some good ones Sunday, Luke. What are your thoughts?
I can't wait for this Rams Eagles game. It'll be nice to just sit back on my couch and see who's going to be coming to Detroit next weekend for the NFC Championship game. And I could see it really going either way. This is going to be a great matchup. Given the Rams 6 points here, I think you have to take the Rams. Like I said, the Eagles' passing game just seems a little bit out of sorts. Obviously, they have two really good receivers, but I just don't think Hurts has been as accurate as he needs to be. and the Packers defense was doing really well against them for the most part. It's just their offense couldn't do anything, and the Packers defense had to be on the field basically the entire game. So at that rate, I think I might go with the Rams to win this one. But the thing is, the Eagles' defense is just so solid. I'm going back and forth, but definitely give me the Rams on the spread. But maybe the Eagles get it done with a field goal. They do have the more talented team, and I think I might have to go with that.
Yeah, I like the Rams a lot in this game. This one is the toughest one for me to pick on the weekend, and it's because the Rams are playing a lot better defensively. Now, I was chalking it up to, okay, they're playing against teams that either don't care or are not good or aren't trying. They finished out the season with wins against the Niners, against the Cardinals, against the Jets, and all those teams were either not good, didn't care, or weren't trying, you know. So it's a different story though whenever you shut down Minnesota. And like you said, yes, they did just take a page out of Aaron Glenn's playbook, just absolutely blitz Darnold, make him be scared for his life in the pocket, seeing ghosts, whatever it is for Darnold that always screws him up. And they did that to perfection. Now, can they replicate that or should they against the Eagles? That's the thing because when these two teams played, it wasn't that long ago. I think it was week 12, and the Eagles absolutely dominated. Went into LA, blew the doors off the Rams. It was one of Saquon's biggest games. I think it was his biggest game in terms of rushing yards on the season. He had over 250 rush yards on the game. Just tore up the Rams rushing defense. And meanwhile, on the other end, the Eagles defense, like you mentioned, I think they're the best in the league, one of, if not. They did not allow a third down conversion in the game. Just got to Stafford all night long. He was never comfortable, and they blew him out. I think the Rams ended up losing that game by 17 points at home. And that was kind of the turning point where I was like, okay, I got to admit, Philadelphia, good. And that's when I had pause for the Rams. That's when I was confident that the Cardinals would still come up and take that NFC West. Now the Rams ended up playing a lot better from that point on. Obviously, they got the win against the Bills where their offense was great, the defense was bad. And then some of those other games like the 49ers, the Cardinals, the offense was bad, the defense was good. And then we saw what happened Monday night where both sides of the ball were clicking. So it's going to take a complete effort for the Rams, and I think you're right. It's going to take a Jalen Hurts game where he's just not hitting those receivers. AJ Brown, we'll see if he's actually happy or not. He seems to be kind of in this kind of is he about to blow up on the team again? You never know with him. He's talented, one of the best receivers in the league, but one of the biggest divas as well. So a lot to hold on to there. I just think I got to trust McVay and Stafford more than I go with Sirianni and Hurts. And even though the Eagles had the better defense, how big of a margin is it? So yeah, I think I'm going with the Rams in this one.
Wow, no, that would be electric. I just feel like this whole season's been setting up for the Lions versus the Eagles. Had basically, they've been ahead of the rest of the NFC the whole year, and it just seems like, well, I guess maybe the Vikings you could count them in, but it's been those two really at the top of everyone's list in the NFC. It just seems like it's going to come down to those two, and thankfully, I think it's going to be, Eagles at Lions in the NFC Championship game. But I don't know. The Rams will give them a good run for their money, but I just don't see it happening for them.
Well, that'll be a good one. And then we've got the other good game on Sunday, the MVP Bowl, Lamar versus Josh Ravens at the Bills. And oh, I'm excited for this one. This game has massive implications. I think even for just both quarterbacks' legacies, obviously for the way that the season's going to play out to see who goes to the Arrowhead Invitational. Both teams have already been once with these quarterbacks. Neither quarterback fared all that well in the Invitational, so maybe they won't be as excited to go back. But I think they're both going to be looking forward to trying to get the win against each other on this game Sunday.
I think they're both going to be pretty excited to try to go back, Reg. I don't know what kind of Chiefs voodoo magic you're playing, but they still think that they can. Both these teams both think that they will beat the Chiefs. And I don't think that they'll be favored, but it'll probably be another pick on whoever does win this game against the Chiefs. I think that's how close those top three AFC teams are. And getting this one here in the divisional round Sunday night this is going to be electric. We got Martin Luther King Jr. Day the next day, so we can absolutely, just not even have to worry about anything. Just enjoy this football on Sunday, and it's going to be electric. It all starts with the quarterbacks, obviously. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, the two top MVP candidates. I mean, you can't ask for better than that. And I look back to the way that the Ravens absolutely handled the Bills earlier this year. I know it was early in the season, but I just don't see a way that this Ravens offense, the way that they've been playing recently, I mean, they haven't even, been putting their best stuff out there early in the year. I know it's same with the Bills, but I just love what the Ravens are doing on offense right now. And Lamar looks like he's in total control. And having that boy back there, Derrick Henry, this Bills defense does not have what it takes to stop him.
Now, Lamar mentioned even before the Steelers game, he's gets a little antsy before these big games, and he came out and played probably his best complete playoff game of his career against the Steelers. He's gonna probably need to do something along those lines. Do you believe Lamar's gotten that playoff bug kind of past him? He can come out and play his best against the Bills, because if he doesn't, we're gonna hear the same thing in the offseason, just like we did last year.
I think he does. I think he's finally, at this point, you can say he's won two MVPs, a good chance of winning his third. I think at this point, he's a great veteran player.
But it's
And a lot
about
of
the
times,
playoffs. It's about how you
but a
play in
lot
these
of times,
months.
young players don't play great in the playoffs. And, it's hard sometimes. Sure, it's because he has a lot of expectations with how great he is during the regular season, but he's still a fairly young quarterback. You gotta remember that. And I think that this is his time to do it in the AFC. He's finally got the run game that he's always needed, and it looks like this defense is good enough to bring them to a Super Bowl as well.
And it's a lot of the same for Josh Allen. Now, Allen has more playoff wins because he gets to do the wild card frenzy every year where he plays the worst team the AFC can possibly imagine, throw him in at the 7th seed, and Josh Allen just takes him to the woodshed out back. Unfortunately, this year is Bo Nix. Lucky recipients in the past have been old Philip Rivers in his last ever game, Skylar Thompson in his first ever game, some Mason Rudolph somewhere in between. So not good quarterbacks that Josh Allen's beaten. His best playoff win in terms of quarterback is definitely against Lamar in the divisional round. The only time that he's ever won a divisional round game. So Josh Allen has as many wins in the divisional round as Lamar Jackson, and that's one each. Lamar last year against CJ Stroud. Josh Allen's only time winning a divisional playoff game was all the way back in 2020 when he beat Lamar in that game. So this is a huge game for Josh Allen too. He could get that same kind of reputation. Oh, you can only win against the bum quarterbacks in the first round in the wild card. And now it would be 4 straight years of losing in the divisional round, not making the conference championship. So a massive game for both these quarterbacks in terms of their reputations going into next season. I think just a lot on the line. And your analysis of the game, it's I have to agree with that in a lot of ways. I think that the Ravens offense is so hard to stop. What they can do with the read option, Lamar or Henry on the ground. Lamar's been throwing the ball better. Zay Flowers, hopefully he'll be healthy for this game. But the double tight end combo of Likely and Andrews, Bateman's had a strong season. Then you throw in Zay Flowers. It's an offense that is tough to stop. And the Bills defense has been getting worse as the season's been going along. Meanwhile, the Ravens defense has been getting better. Now, I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to slow down the Bills as much as they did in that week 4 game when Josh Allen's team only managed 10 points in the contest. Allen's having a great season, probably the best he's looked in his career this year. So I've got to give him credit as well. But this is a whole new test here in this week. You're not playing the Broncos anymore.
Exactly. And I think this is what the game comes down to. If Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are both playing to their peak, I think the Ravens just have a better ceiling here. And so if they're on the same level, the Ravens are going to be able to win this game with the better defense and better rush game. So it's going to take the only way that the Ravens lose this, really, I don't see Lamar having a great game and then winning. And I think, or and then losing the game.
Right.
So at this point, I think as long as Lamar does what he's been doing all season, and I believe in him in this playoff game, I think this is his time. I said that last year, but I feel it again. Lamar's going to be able to break through. He's a great quarterback, generational talent, and I think that he's going to be able to get it done. He's going to have a great game.
I believe in him as well. I'm going to need him to do it. Now, the reason he didn't last year, Luke, is he was playing against a dynasty. That's that's a lot harder. He's playing against a different kind of dynasty this week. He's playing against the Wildcard dynasty of the Buffalo Bills, one of the best Wildcard teams we've seen in years. But now in the divisional, it's a different story for the Buffalo Bills. And give me Lamar Jackson to win this one. I like them by probably 4 to 6 points. 29-24, Baltimore.
All right, I'm going with 27-21. I think I think this is the time, and it's going to set up some good matchups for next week. And I think what my matchups are is pretty obvious: Lions, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, and we already know how it's going to end in the Super Bowl with the Ravens losing to the Lions. But what is your picks again, Brent?
Yeah, I've still got the same Super Bowl picks that I started the season with as well. I started the season saying Chiefs over Lions, and I don't see that changing. We both have three out of the same teams this week, and Chiefs, Ravens, and Lions, and I'm going with the Rams over Philadelphia in that other divisional game. So should be some nice matchups, some good picks. And Luke, I'll close it out now with an 8 pack. Not as thirsty this week, but they're still going to be even more delicious. So I'll rank the last 8 teams left in terms of how likely I think they are to win the Super Bowl. How about that?
Sounds good to me. The audience is going to have to go get their own 4 pack, and to get the full 12 pack here. As yeah, I know how
We're
much I
gonna.
love the 12
My
pack.
motto is pack as much flavor into 8 as you need in 12. So we're gonna bring the juice. The
Let's
least
do it.
likely team to win the Super Bowl out of the teams remaining is the Houston Texans. For one, they just have the hardest path. They'd have to win on the road here this week against Kansas City and against either Baltimore or Buffalo before being an underdog in the Super Bowl. CJ Stroud, I like what he did this week. That was a huge game for him to kind of rebound from having a bad season, quite frankly. He wasn't the reason why his team was as good as they were in the regular season. A lot of it was the schedule and the defense playing well. But he stepped up, and I like that because I like CJ, but he's got a tough task this week in Arrowhead. Number 7, the seventh most likely team to win the Super Bowl would be the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, a stud. He's going to be tough for the Lions to defend, I think. This Lions defense going to have to defend him differently than they did Darnold. And before that, the Lions were giving up a ton of points. I could see Jaden Daniels really going out there and having a great game, but going to be too much to try to beat Detroit this week. So Washington comes in at 7 for me. At number 6 is going to be the Buffalo Bills, dropping all the way to 6 this week. And a lot of that just has to do with the path. I think they're unlikely to win this week, and I think they're even more unlikely to win, even if they do somehow win this week, to win in the AFC Championship game. They played really well against the Broncos. I think if they're playing against the Rams or the Eagles this week, I think they're favored. So I don't think they're the sixth best team in the NFL, but I do think they're the sixth most likely team to win this year's Super Bowl. Give me Buffalo at number 6. At number 5 is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. They are favored this week over the Rams, but I don't think they win this game. I like the Rams' chances against Philadelphia. There's just too many questions about the passing game with Jalen Hurts. I think that's the biggest question marks out of any of the remaining quarterbacks is Jalen Hurts this season and what they're trying to do behind Saquon Barkley, who is obviously the engine of that offense. So give me Philadelphia at number 5. Number 4, this combination's already won a Super Bowl before, so why wouldn't I have their chances a little bit higher than some others? That is Stafford and McVay. They've already won one Super Bowl last year. They were a point away from beating the Lions, and the Lions were right there to win the NFC. So I don't see why the Rams team couldn't do the same thing. I think they're even better on defense this year, outside of obviously they don't have Aaron Donald anymore, but they're young. They're getting better as the season's gone along. Puka's great. Kyron Williams running the ball hard. This team has a lot of pieces to be a Super Bowl contender. So, yeah, I like them as the fourth most likely team to win a Super Bowl. At number three would be the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar. Lamar Jackson, can he get over the hump? Hopefully, if he can win this game, it would already be his most defining moment, most defining game in his career to this point. But then he would have to try to do it again in Kansas City. That will be a lot to ask for. Nobody can go in the Arrowhead Invitational and win with ease. So that would be a tough game. If they get there, I would love to see it. That's my prediction for the AFC Championship. But I got the Ravens at three, meaning the Detroit Lions come in at number two. My NFC pick. They're going to get there to New Orleans, but they won't be enough for the dynasty. The Kansas City Chiefs will win their third straight Super Bowl, most likely team to do it. And that is the eight pack this week, Luke.
Seems about right. Yeah, I think that you're pretty right there. I just get those Rams down a little bit just because I think they're going to lose this week. But and obviously the Chiefs, I think they're going to go down to the Ravens. But at the end of the day, that's what I'd expect from your eight pack, and we're going to have to see how it plays out. I'm so excited for this weekend. Divisional round football, playoff action. Only 7 games left for the entire season, and wow, we made it. We made it here. Thanks for sticking with us, y'all.
Yes, indeed. Go Chiefs. I like Kelsey over yards this week. That's my favorite player pick of the weekend. And Luke, any final thoughts for you on the Lions game?
Gibbs is about to go crazy, you already know, and just slam that -9.5. We're not making this one close, and that place is going to be rocking. They're going to want to see the exits by midway through the third quarter.
Well, thank you so much for watching another episode of the Hesse Bros. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support we've been getting as we take the Chiefs and the Lions to the Super Bowl.